Hello, I'm Isaac, and welcome to People in Perspective. Joining me on this program today is Mr. John Hunter, a professional musician. Hi, Mr. Hunter.
Hello, Isaac.
Thank you for taking the time to join me today.
You're welcome.
Okay, so can you tell me about your last position as a music professional?
Sure. I was in 3 different orchestras, and my last full-time position was as a member of the Syracuse Symphony from 1998 to 2001.
Mm-hmm. And what did it take to get to that point? What does schooling look like? And
Sure. Private lessons for me began as a 7th grader in junior high school band, and I had a teacher that was super inspirational, and it was around that time that I thought I might want to do this for a living. And in about 9th grade, I switched to a teacher who was a professional in the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. And he told me, John, if you really want to do this, you're going to have to practice 2 hours a day outside of school and everything else. And I thought he was on drugs. And and he said, before I take you as a student, you have to promise me that. And that was a big promise, but I did. And he moved away, and I moved to another teacher, and that guy was pretty undisciplined. And I kind of slid around for a couple years, and then I moved to yet another teacher who was quite disciplined. And I cracked the whip a little harder on myself, but I didn't get into the Juilliard School, and I kind of put all my eggs into that basket. So I took a year auditioning and played in the University of Minnesota Orchestra, and then I got into the Eastman School after that year. It was 3 very intense years with the best players in the world. And by the time I was done with that, I came to Chicago here for graduate school at DePaul. And it was my teacher here that was in the Chicago Symphony that gave me my first big professional break.
So would you say it was your teachers that were your inspirations to become a musician? Or?
Yeah, for sure. They were all professional men who had positions in symphonies, and that's what I wanted to accomplish. Think of going for quarterback lessons to Tom Brady, right?
Yeah.
But also my mother was a professional musician, and I saw her, the way she worked and the way she had taught at a university, and then she and I worked together a lot. So I would say, along with my teachers and just all that alone time in the practice room, my mom was probably the biggest proponent of helping me get myself out in public and perform.
Yeah. And okay, so since you're a musician, do you view music differently, you think, than other people?
Totally.
Totally
differently. Even a piece of music, that I've never played before, I hear at the concert hall, I think much more like an average listener. But if I've played the piece and I've performed the piece, it's like I'm hearing it in high definition, 3D, super slow-mo, and for a while it was very difficult for me to enjoy a concert because I was picking apart every single tiny thing. And my wife also is a professional musician, and we used to make this rule that once we got in the driveway, we would stop talking about the concert or complaining or whatever it was. And it wasn't until I'd been out of an orchestra full-time for about 10 years that I could go to a concert and just like it, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely listen super different because you're an expert. You can't help yourself.
Okay, so being a musician, do you have a favorite composer?
Beethoven. That's
Beethoven?
simple. Yeah, that's really simple actually.
Can you explain why?
He's super personal, and I started really listening to classical music all the time when I was about 14. And what I noticed about him was that it had a power and a personality and an aggressiveness that really it just resonated with me as a person. I'd hear it and I'd think, man, that's how I think about things. That's how I view things. When it was a beautiful passage, I think that's what I feel like when I'm outdoors. Everything about his music has always touched me as if I could articulate something in life, it would sound like his music.
Yeah. Okay. So I see you brought your clarinet.
I did.
Do you think you can play something?
I'll play something for you. One of the great things about clarinet is its ability to be kind of a nostalgic, sad instrument in the orchestra, in addition to all the powerful technical stuff. And one moment I really like is in the Dvorak 8th Symphony, where the last movement is going along really rambunctious and flying a million miles an hour, and it's really loud, and then everything backs off, and the clarinet gives this sad solo that recaps the music to that point. And then the orchestra just takes off super loud and finishes it to the end.
Wow.
And it was always one of my favorite things to play in
Yeah.
the orchestra.
So you said that you're a part of different orchestras.
Yep.
Like, can you tell me about your time, like in each of?
Sure. My first full-time job was in the Orchestra of Barcelona, in Barcelona, Spain. My teacher kind of fixed me up with the job from Chicago. The conductor there had been his boss in Montreal, and he said, I got a young guy you should really hear. So I played a taped audition kind of like this with the camera.
Oh.
And, and then the guy said, sure, come over on a trial basis. And then they gave me the job after my third week. I was there for 2 years, making money like I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe they paid me anything to play. But, and then my wife and I got engaged, and she lived here in the United States.
Oh.
And I thought, well, she also was kind of chased after by that orchestra, but I had a feeling we would be foreigners to our own kids and might never move back. And I was just in my first generation here in the U.S. and my family, and I thought, I don't know, we head right back to Europe. So I came back here, and very close to my wife's orchestra, the Buffalo Philharmonic, had a position because a guy I knew well had had a career-ending stroke. And they brought me in, and I played 8 years with them. And those were good years. And I went actually back to school to get a degree as a choir conductor, another master's degree. And I had just finished that when my wife's orchestra called me in Syracuse and said, hey, our guy just quit. He's going to go teach at a university. Can you take the chair? So I played 3 seasons there.
Wow.
And then my wife got a job in the Chicago Symphony here, and I had to grow up and get a big boy job, which is about the time I switched to being in business.
Okay, so do you have any advice for aspiring musicians since you've been in the business for a while?
It sounds so simplistic, but you've got to practice and probably hit 10,000 hours of work time minimum.
Wow.
Because, and that can happen by age 16 if you're one of these kids that starts their instrument at age 7.
Okay.
But 10,000 hours practice.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me on the program. It was a pleasure meeting you and learning more about you.
Sure. You're welcome, Isaac.
I'm Isaac, and see you next time on People in Perspective.